Hopefully it should be obvious that if you can't go to rail in a controlled fashion and do a basic Casper Disaster, you have no reason to watch this video. Turn this off, go watch my trick tips for how to do those, and then come back. The foot position for a 360 Casper Disaster is exactly the same as a regular Casper Disaster. That isn't the part of this that's going to change. Instead, the fundamental changes in technique for this trick are going to come from two other places. The first one is body position. Because of the fact we're going to have to go a lot further around for the rotation, we need to make sure we pre-wind. If you're doing a regular Casper Disaster, you can start about here and just pick up. That'll get you through a 180. If you want to do a 360, you really need to make sure you pre-wind. Come all the way across your body, ready for that spin. The second change is by far the most important though, and that's motion, momentum, direction of travel, whatever you want to call it. And I don't mean the rotation is the same, the core technique behind the trick hasn't changed. It's the way you travel into it. Because when you do a regular Casper Disaster, you want to roll backwards. And you pick it up. And not only are you using that backwards rolling momentum to transfer it into the spin, but when you exit the trick, because you're pushing out that way, you carry that momentum forwards. In theory, you can do the whole thing as one smooth movement. When you're going 360, that isn't the case. Yeah, you'll get through the first 180 easily, but then all of a sudden, the momentum you traveled in with is working against you. Ugh. You can see how much I struggled for the end of that. I had to really push it round. That's what that choppy noise was. And also, as I exited the Casper Disaster, all of a sudden I'm going that way. Now, directions changing like that on a trick, you can use it to your advantage, but generally it's not going to flow well. So for this trick, I personally believe you want to go into it rolling forwards, and that means we've got to change a couple of things. So all of a sudden we're doing Casper Disasters the wrong way. We're rolling into them forwards, and you'll find very quickly that first 180 is gonna be hard. Like, if you can even get it round, trying to land going backwards on this, it's not fun. So we're going to use this huge wind up that I was talking about a second ago, and we're going to use that to push through the first Casper Disaster and almost pretend it doesn't exist. You've got to force your way through that almost like you're doing a primo slide. You just have to hoof it round as hard as you can, because once you get over that hurdle, the rest of the trick basically does itself. At that point, you're just doing a regular Casper Disaster. You've got to here, and then you're going to push through like every Casper Disaster you've ever done. But as you can probably tell, what that means is you're going to twist a lot. You have to lead with this shoulder and keep going. Resist the urge to give in and push it down after the 180 like you've probably been conditioned to do. Just keep pushing until you get about 270 degrees through, and then you can start dropping it back to the wheels. And hopefully, if you've got the timing right, you'll come out forwards. When I say the first 180 in this feels like a primo slide, I'm not exaggerating. That's exactly what you're doing. With a regular Casper Disaster, because you're only turning 180, you have the privilege of holding it on that wheel. If you do it right, only the edge of the wheel will ever touch the ground. But because you're trying to force through a 180 with this one, you don't get the privilege of doing that. You've got to basically power slide or primo slide around the first 180. But to get through it without the board juddering and chopping and stopping you dead, or worse, throwing you off, you have to keep the front wheels up. What that means is all your weight's going to be on that back foot, lifting the front truck just enough to clear it. So you're going to be spun around on just this part of the deck. And I don't know how well this is going to show up on the camera, but I just did kind of all the different angles that I always use for the intro and the end of these videos, and I did them all on this spot. And if your ground is anything like as abrasive as every single surface in this town, this happens. Like just chunks of wood split off. You will wear your board out very quickly doing these. Incidentally, that's actually the real reason I have these side cuts. I love this trick so much, but if I start with a straight rail and do a lot of these, because it's wearing this part of the board away, a straight rail ends up being curved. Having the side cut means what I'm actually doing is I'm wearing this bit off and it wears down to a straight rail. Anyone who says this is for rail stability doesn't really understand what's happening here. This isn't about rail stability, it's about rail longevity, and that's a huge difference. With anything that spins, especially anything that spins more than a 180, keeping yourself centered over the rotation is crucial. You know, whether it's helipops or 360 spins or Casper spins, you've got to keep your center of gravity, which is roughly your belly button, over the center of the spin. But as we've just acknowledged, because of the fact you've got to keep those front wheels lifted like that, you're going to find yourself leaning out so much doing this. This is going to be your next big hurdle, your next big failure point, because you're going to think, I need to lift those, so I better lean back. And then next thing you know, you're way out of shot. You've just gone. It's important that you learn to kind of shift your hips, but keep yourself, your shoulders, your navel kind of centered. All you want is just enough to get those wheels up off the ground, but not enough to have the whole board rocking up like you're trying to do a 950-50. So now we get to our final hurdle, and really the most important part of this whole trick, oddly, and that's speed. Not rotational speed, because that just wants to be fast, but the speed you go into the trick with. I can't remember if I've talked about this in other trick tips, but like, I tend to think of freestyle tricks as having a speed window at which they work at. That's why, on the website to the right of this video, there's a little bit that says, recommended speed or something along those lines. Slow, medium, fast, stationary. Some tricks have a very wide speed window. You can do them at any speed, like the 180 kickflip or the ollie. This has possibly the narrowest of speed windows. It is very picky. Now, at the extreme end and the most obvious end, you really do not want to do this going fast. If you roll into this too quickly, and there's not much in that, like you don't have to go too fast for it to be too quick. This is just going to throw you off. It doesn't matter what board you've got, it doesn't matter what surface you've got. That first 180 is just going to send you flying. I actively do not want to do this. Nope, nope, nope. But then at the other end, you can do this stationary, but I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it for two reasons. One, without any forwards momentum, you've got nothing to translate into that rotation. So you're going to be fighting quite hard to get it round. But also, even if you do it stationary, it just looks really bad. A very, very small amount of forward motion, just a little bit, probably smaller than you think, will make a huge difference. That's all you need. Okay, one last thing. If you find yourself consistently coming up short on the rotation and you're landing just a little bit under 360 every single time, don't worry about it too much. Don't stress out about it. As long as you can land back leg heavy, so you're landing onto your back wheels and just kind of kick turning the last bit, that actually doesn't look too bad. In a lot of cases, I think that's better than doing a perfect 360, is you get a little bit more flow out of the end of it, a little bit more momentum as you come away from the trick. And it's definitely better than the alternative. Like, I've been doing these for a long, long time, and let me tell you, if you over-rotate and end up like 450 degrees or a bit less, it looks like ass. Coming up a bit short and kick turning away is always going to be the better move. First of all, if you made it through the whole video, well done you and thank you. I have to admit, I was a bit skeptical about doing this video. Someone requested this quite a while back now, and I thought, how much is there to a 360 Casper Disaster? It's just spin a bit more. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized there's a lot of core concepts here that carry over to other tricks. You know, there's the speed window I was talking about, but you know, keeping yourself centered in a spin, very important. And also, most importantly, understanding how the momentum of the trick, the momentum exiting it, really dictates how you want to go into it. So even if you don't keep this trick around, even if it's not something you do in your everyday routine, it's worth learning just to fully understand those concepts. Now, that aside, I know it's been a long time since I've done a video, and I keep meaning to do more. I keep saying I'm going to go out and I'm going to film, and then reality hits, and you know, bad weather and too much work, and just the last 2 years have been crap. What makes it even worse is I've now lost the school spot that I filmed most of my sessions in. So we're going to be stuck here for the foreseeable future. Good times. But honestly, I will try and do more when I can, as long as offset isn't continuing to take up all of my time. On a related note, go to offsetskatesupply.co.uk and buy all of your goodies. But for now, turn YouTube off, close your laptop, close your phone, put it back away, whatever. Go skateboarding. It's way more fun than sitting out here just chatting to a camera or watching someone chatting to a camera. Why would you do this? Why? Go skateboard, do some 360 Casper Disasters. Jesus.